Subscribe because it's free.
The universe stirred in muted hues of twilight and storm, an endless expanse where time and fate entwined in a quiet dance of chaos and destiny. A silent void stretched into infinity, punctuated by swirling nebulas and the distant hum of collapsing stars. In that cosmic theater, the remnants of humanity's dreams shone like fragile beacons, daring to illuminate the darkness that had long threatened to swallow hope itself. There was an almost tangible tension in the ether, a prelude to events that would irrevocably alter the course of existence. This is not a tale of a single hero, but a collective spirit molded by countless trials, each scar a testament to resilience and ingenuity that carried humankind through its darkest hours. For millennia, humanity had battled not just the external terrors of a ruthless universe, but also the internal demons that accompanied its very existence. In every epic, legends were forged in the crucible of struggle and despair, emerging with the brilliance of victory against overwhelming odds. The annals of history told of wars waged in the depths of space, of breakthroughs that defied natural laws, and of sacrifices made on the altar of survival. It was a legacy built on the notion that even in the bleakest moments, humanity could rise, undaunted, unyielding, and unbreakable. Every hardship, every confrontation with cosmic uncertainty, had only served to strengthen the collective resolve. This spirit was woven into the fabric of every civilization and every generation, a thread of defiant hope that could never be severed. In the midst of this long and storied journey, a transmission arrived, a desperate plea borne on waves of distorted static and shadowed imagery. Its arrival was both sudden and enigmatic, a faint echo of a distant cry for salvation that defied immediate explanation. The signal, cryptic in its construction and haunting in its tone, cut through the steady hum of routine communications like a shard of ice through still water. It carried an urgency that was palpable even in its fractured cadence, an appeal that resonated deep within the collective soul of a species that always prided itself on empathy tempered by hard-earned experience. The sound was not one of a single voice, but a chorus of lamentations and fear, a call that carried the weight of despair, yet also hinted at a potential for redemption. The message, inscrutable and laden with both promise and peril, arrived at a time when humanity stood poised at the brink of another transformative moment. It was a summons that could not be ignored, a signal that stirred both the hearts and minds of all who heard it. Every note of that transmission reverberated with the echoes of past struggles and victories, reminding the listener that the call for help was not merely an isolated cry in the void, but a part of a larger, inexorable cycle. There was an ineffable quality to the plea, a sound that suggested ancient sorrows mingled with the hope of new beginnings. It was as though the cosmos itself had spoken, its voice layered with centuries of experience and loss, urging humanity to recognize that every act of mercy or retribution was a step toward an uncertain future. Within this haunting message lay the seeds of both compassion and impending retribution, a duality that would soon force a decision as old as time itself: to offer salvation or to strike back with all the fury accumulated over countless lifetimes of oppression and neglect. In that moment, the narrative was not one of individual valor, but a collective awakening. The story unfolded through an omnipresent voice, a voice without a face that represented the entirety of humanity. It was a voice that could be heard in every corner of the cosmos, resonating in the quiet solitude of abandoned outposts and the bustling corridors of vast, interstellar command centers alike. This voice carried with it the memories of every victory and every loss, the accumulated wisdom of a species that had long learned that strength often came not from isolated acts of courage, but from a unity that transcended physical form and individual identity. The tone was measured yet resolute, evoking the steady pulse of a heartbeat that, despite being unseen, remained the undeniable force behind every act of progress and defiance. It was a voice that did not speak of heroes or villains, but a collective will of the people who would weather the storms of cosmic indifference and emerge with resolve as unyielding as the very fabric of space. There was an undeniable gravity in this calling, a sense that the universe itself was at a crossroads, and that the response to this cry for help would set in motion events of staggering consequence. It was a call that demanded reflection and action in equal measure, compelling those who heard it to confront the dual nature of their existence, the capacity for both mercy and unrestrained wrath. In that critical juncture, the old wounds of history mingled with the promise of future glory. The voice that spoke was one of raw, unfiltered emotion, tempered by the hard lessons of past eras. It urged a careful balance between the instinctive desire to reach out in compassion and the equally potent drive to protect and defend, a balance that had defined humanity's journey from its humble beginnings to its current place in the cosmos. And so, as the final notes of the cry for help faded into the vast silence of space, an unmistakable certainty took root within the collective consciousness. This was not merely another distress call lost among the countless signals of a chaotic universe. It was a turning point, a moment when the scales of fate were poised to tip decisively. The cosmos, in its infinite complexity, had offered a challenge that would test the very limits of human resolve. It was a summons that required more than mere empathy. It demanded action, a demonstration of the unparalleled spirit that had seen humanity through the crucible of time. There was a profound understanding that every act of mercy carried with it the seeds of potential regret, and every act of retribution bore the burden of irreversible consequence. In that charged moment, the future seemed both uncertain and vividly clear, a testament to the power of a collective spirit that had learned to harness its pain and transform it into an unstoppable force. The message, cloaked in mystery yet impossible to dismiss, set the stage for a reckoning that was as inevitable as it was monumental. It was a call that spoke directly to the core of what it meant to be human, a species defined not by individual exploits, but by a unity that could, when provoked, unleash a fury capable of reshaping the very fabric of existence. And in that silence that followed, the weight of impending destiny hung like a storm cloud over the horizon, promising that the time for decisive action had finally arrived. The moment the signal was detected, a palpable shift swept over the collective consciousness. Data streams and urgent alerts filled every control center, each pulse of encoded information stirring both anticipation and anxiety. Across countless monitoring stations, technicians watched in silent awe as instruments registered a pattern that defied conventional explanation, a series of meticulously arranged pulses interspersed with chaotic static, hinting at an origin far removed from familiar channels. The initial burst of excitement quickly gave way to a meticulous scramble for clarity. In laboratories and command hubs around the globe, analysts worked with a sense of urgency, their eyes fixed on oscilloscopes and spectral graphs, attempting to unravel the meaning behind the cryptic transmission. Every digitized fragment of the signal was scrutinized, every anomaly cataloged, as if the very survival of a long-tested legacy depended on decoding its message. Simultaneously, a quiet debate emerged among the scientific community. Experts in communication theory, astrophysics, and even cryptography pooled their collective wisdom, questioning the signal's authenticity and purpose. Was it a genuine call for assistance from a distant civilization, or a cunningly devised ruse intended to provoke a specific reaction? Sophisticated algorithms were deployed to sift through the signal's layers, revealing a structure that seemed to oscillate between clarity and deliberate ambiguity. In the sterile glow of computer screens, the transmission's peculiar cadence was dissected word by word, its frequency components mapped with painstaking precision. Every spectral twist suggested that the message was not random noise, but a carefully composed code, a mixture of raw emotion and intricate design meant to unsettle as much as it informed. The technical findings began to hint at an unsettling possibility. The signal might be a double-edged sword, simultaneously beckoning help and laying the groundwork for deeper manipulation. Amid these analytical pursuits, an undercurrent of philosophical and ethical deliberation began to surface. In hushed conversations within secure briefing rooms, voices rose in debate over the moral implications of responding to mysterious plea. Some argued that the very nature of the transmission, with its undeniable aura of desperation, demanded an empathetic outreach, a lifeline extended to a suffering entity somewhere in the cosmic dark. Others, however, cautioned against the peril of misinterpretation. They pointed to the possibility that beneath the veneer of a distress call lay an insidious ploy designed to exploit human compassion, a trap set to incite a reaction that could spiral beyond control. In these discussions, historical precedents were invoked, a reminder of times when misjudged mercy had led to unintended devastation. There was a growing recognition that every decision in this moment carried the weight of countless lives and the legacy of past sacrifices. The debate was not merely academic. It was a confrontation between instinctive empathy and the hard-won wisdom of generations who had learned that the universe could be as unforgiving as it was vast. As the data continued to be processed and theories refined, hints of manipulation began to emerge in the depths of the signal structure. Subtle irregularities in the transmission suggested that what appeared to be a straightforward cry for help might instead be a meticulously engineered message. Layers of encryption overlapped in a way that seemed designed to obscure a secondary, perhaps more sinister, intent. Some specialists noted that the timing and modulation of certain pulses echoed patterns observed in earlier encounters with deceptive communications, instances where a plea was used to mask a calculated provocation. These observations fed into an evolving narrative of mistrust. The possibility that the signal was not a genuine outreach, but a strategic maneuver to manipulate human response began to take hold. Skepticism grew, fueled by a series of small, almost imperceptible inconsistencies that hinted at deliberate misdirection. The very clarity of the initial distress call was now viewed through the lens of caution, as experts debated whether humanity was being baited into a trap it might be ill-prepared to escape. In the sterile silence of analytical centers, where the hum of machines mingled with the quiet murmurs of anxious experts, the conversation turned to the nature of communication itself. What did it mean to send a plea into the void, and what responsibilities did such a call impose on its recipients? As the debate unfolded, the discussion grew increasingly introspective, reflecting on the delicate balance between hope and caution. It became evident that the transmission was not merely an isolated event, but a reflection of an age-old dynamic, a test of humanity's capacity to discern truth from subterfuge, to extend compassion without compromising security. There was a growing awareness that the response to this enigmatic call would define not just an immediate course of action, but would echo in the annals of human history, a moment when the scales of judgment teeter between the innate desire to help and the imperative to protect. Throughout these hours of intense scrutiny and relentless inquiry, the world seemed to hold its breath. The signal, with all its layered meanings and ambiguous intentions, had become a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest fears and highest ideals. It was a catalyst that forced a confrontation with the inherent duality of existence, a reminder that every act of mercy might be shadowed by the risk of betrayal, and every gesture of caution could wither the seeds of potential salvation. Analysts, philosophers, and strategists alike were united in the realization that their next steps would resonate far beyond the confines of any single command center. They were at the threshold of a decision that encapsulated the very essence of human identity, the eternal struggle between vulnerability and strength, between the light of hope and the darkness of uncertainty. Even as the technical evaluations became more sophisticated, the emotional weight of the situation was inescapable. The data, despite its clinical precision, spoke of lives that might be hanging in the balance, of an unseen entity whose fate was intertwined with humanity's own. Every calculation carried an undercurrent of empathy, tempered by the harsh realities of past encounters with the unknown. In laboratories filled with the steady hum of servers and the rapid tapping of keyboards, the team of experts wrestled with an ever-growing suspicion that the call for help was not an isolated plea, but part of a larger, more convoluted strategy designed to elicit a response that was as much about human pride as it was about genuine need. In the midst of these deliberations, a consensus began to form, not a unified decision, but a cautious agreement that every possible angle needed to be explored before any action was taken. The transmission, with its dualistic nature, was an enigma that demanded both an open heart and a guarded mind. As the minutes turned into hours, the discussions became more intense, each participant acutely aware that the stakes were immeasurably high. The air was thick with the recognition that the next steps would not only define a moment in time, but could potentially alter the trajectory of future generations. It was a crossroads where every piece of evidence was weighed against the backdrop of an ever-expanding cosmic theater, where the line between salvation and deception was as thin as a thread spun in the vast silence of space. In that charged atmosphere of inquiry and uncertainty, every detail mattered. The transmission was deconstructed piece by piece, each fragment analyzed for its hidden implications. The mounting evidence of deliberate obfuscation slowly built a case for a hidden agenda, a masterful orchestration meant to draw humanity into a confrontation on terms that were far from clear. And so, amid the hum of machinery and the quiet intensity of human thought, the seeds of mistrust were sown. What began as a plea for help had evolved into a puzzle of cosmic proportions, one that demanded not just scientific rigor, but also the wisdom born of countless past struggles. The world stood on the brink, aware that the unfolding drama would soon force a decision that could irrevocably reshape its destiny. A surge of determination radiated through every control center as humanity's collective will converge into a single, unyielding command. Without hesitation, a faceless voice, cold, precise, and resolute, issued orders that cascaded through encrypted networks and autonomous systems alike. In that decisive moment, every unit of defense, every strategic algorithm honed over decades of relentless training, sprang into action. The response was not impulsive. It was a meticulously orchestrated mobilization honed by centuries of preparation and sacrifice. Unmanned vessels, stealth drones, and interstellar defense arrays aligned in perfect synchrony, executing premeditated maneuvers that left no room for error. Each digital command resonated with the weight of humanity's storied past, a history marked by struggle, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to survival. The coordinated activation of advanced technologies and strategic initiatives unfolded with precision that was both mechanical and deeply emotional, symbolizing a force that was as much about calculated retribution as it was about protecting a legacy forged in hardship. In the aftermath of that resounding call, the full extent of human ingenuity was laid bare. Every command center, now transformed into a nucleus of relentless activity, buzzed with the electric fervor of synchronized operations. Advanced artificial intelligence systems interfaced seamlessly with human oversight, parsing data in real time and recalibrating strategies on the fly. Tactical deployments were executed with fluid adaptability, a dance of calculated strikes and rapid repositioning that defied the chaos of an uncertain universe. The algorithms that governed these operations were imbued with the collective wisdom of past conflicts, ensuring that every move was a blend of innovative strategy and hard-won experience. The strategic brilliance of the response was evident in the flawless integration of decoy maneuvers, diversionary tactics, and overwhelming force concentrated at critical junctures. It was as if every piece of the global defense apparatus, from remote command hubs to the quiet hum of underground data centers, worked in perfect harmony to unleash an unstoppable wave of retribution. Even as the tactical operations advanced with unerring precision, there was a profound undercurrent of emotion driving each decision. The response was not merely an exercise in brute force. It was a manifestation of a deep, collective catharsis that had been building over millennia. Every calculated strike carried the weight of historical grievances, of epochs when humanity had been dismissed, underestimated, or even deliberately oppressed. That legacy of struggle was not forgotten. Instead, it transformed into an inexorable drive to assert a presence that was impossible to ignore. In the silent coordination of digital networks and the rapid movement of defense systems, there lay an unmistakable blend of reason and raw emotion. The faceless nature of the response did nothing to diminish the passion embedded in each operation. Rather, it underscored a reality that the force behind the actions was not a single individual, but the combined might and resolve of an entire species. It was an assertion that every act of measured aggression was also an act of remembrance, a tribute to every sacrifice and every triumph that had defined the human journey. In the midst of the strategic assault, there was an elegance in the execution that defied the brutal necessity of the act. The deployment of force was marked by an almost surgical precision, where each maneuver was calculated to achieve maximum impact while minimizing collateral chaos. Advanced sensors, high-speed communication channels, and real-time data analytics merged into a single, coherent strategy that left little room for unpredictability. Every wave of retribution was timed to perfection, an intricate sequence of offensive moves designed to dismantle the source of the ominous transmission with overwhelming effectiveness. The brilliance of the tactical plan was evident in its capacity to adapt, absorbing countermeasures and adjusting course instantaneously in response to emerging challenges. This was not a chaotic outburst of fury. It was a measured, dynamic operation that illustrated the very essence of human adaptability. In every pulse of energy and every surge of coordinated activity, there was a clear message. Humanity was not only capable of defending itself, but was also prepared to strike decisively when provoked. Yet, beyond the cold calculations and relentless precision, the response was imbued with a deep sense of moral complexity. The decision to unleash such a formidable force was born out of necessity, but it was also a heavy burden, a recognition that every act of retribution carried with it the echoes of past sacrifices and the potential for unforeseen consequences. Within the machinery of strategy and the algorithms of attack, there existed a subtle dialogue about justice and retribution. The response was driven by the conviction that sometimes mercy must yield to the demands of survival, that in a universe as vast and indifferent as this one, hesitation could be a luxury that humanity could ill afford. This duality, the interplay between cold, rational strategy and the raw, emotional impetus to defend one's existence, lent the entire operation a gravity that went far beyond tactical calculations. It was a reflection of the perennial struggle to balance empathy with strength, to reconcile the need to protect with the inevitability of conflict. As the relentless tide of coordinated action surged forward, every facet of the response contributed to a resounding declaration of humanity's resolve. The silent command centers, the intricate networks of drones and ships, and the precision-engineered algorithms all spoke the same language, a language of defiance, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to a future defined by strength. There was no room for compromise, no space for retreat. The situation demanded that every available resource be marshaled to confront the threat, to dismantle the ominous challenge posed by the enigmatic transmission. In that decisive moment, the force unleashed was a fusion of every trial, every victory, and every lesson learned from the crucible of human history. It was a force that transcended individual actions, rising as a collective testament to the power and ingenuity that had always defined the human spirit. In the steady cadence of strategic operations, there emerged a singular, unbroken chain of determination that wove through every fiber of the global response. Every unit moved with purpose, every data stream flowed with clarity, and every decision was a reflection of a species that had long mastered the art of turning adversity into opportunity. The operation was not a mere display of brute strength. It was a carefully choreographed symphony of intelligence, precision, and deep-seated emotion. And as the calculated maneuvers continued unabated, it became evident that the response was more than just a reaction. It was a definitive statement of intent. It was a moment when every command, every calculated strike, and every adaptive measure coalesced into a force that was as inevitable as the dawn. The digital pulse of the collective effort throbbed like the heartbeat of an indomitable being, proclaiming without ambiguity that humanity would no longer be an object of pity or dismissal. Instead, it would be remembered as an entity capable of decisive, formidable action, a force that would protect its legacy at all costs. In that profound convergence of strategy, emotion, and relentless will, the truth was laid bare. Humanity was not merely reacting to a challenge. It was asserting its right to exist, to thrive, and to shape its destiny. The orchestration of digital might and tactical brilliance, interwoven with the deep currents of historical memory and moral conviction, forged a response that was as unyielding as it was precise. Every maneuver, every pulse of energy, every digital command was a testament to a truth as old as time. In the face of overwhelming adversity, a unified force, faceless yet indomitable, could rise to meet any challenge, no matter how inscrutable its origin. The cosmos settled into a heavy silence following the unleashing of calculated force, leaving behind echoes that resonated to the vast reaches of space and the collective heart of humanity. In the immediate wake of the retribution, there was no triumphant clamor, only a profound, measured quiet that bore the weight of decisions made and futures altered. The very act of striking back had carved a permanent scar across the fabric of interstellar relations, an indelible reminder that even the most precise acts of defense come at a significant moral and existential cost. Every system that had been mobilized to deliver that retribution now stood still, as if pausing to absorb the magnitude of what had transpired. The technology, so advanced and seamlessly integrated into a unified defense, now hummed softly, its digital pulse a steady, unbroken rhythm that marked the passage of a new era. This moment of stillness was not an end but a point of reflection, a time when the collective consciousness of humanity was forced to reckon with the duality of its actions. The carefully orchestrated campaign, executed with the precision of countless algorithms and the resolve of generations, had succeeded in silencing the ambiguous call that had once threatened to blur the line between vulnerability and strength. Yet, as the echoes faded, so too did the certainty that the sacrifice demanded by such power would yield only clear victory. In the days that followed, every individual component of society, from the most intricate command center to the smallest outpost, found itself immersed in contemplation. The magnitude of the response was measured not only in the physical decimation of an unknown threat, but also in the psychological imprint left on those who had witnessed the act. There was an unspoken understanding that while the enemy, real or fabricated, had been struck down, a part of humanity had been irrevocably transformed in the process. The relentless pursuit of retribution had revealed both the heights of human ingenuity and the depths of its capacity for introspection. Memories of past transgressions and victories blended together, forming a tapestry of experience that was as much about loss as it was about triumph. As data continued to flow into secure networks, analysts and strategists began to piece together the far-reaching consequences of their actions. The once mysterious transmission, which had ignited this cascade of events, was now a subject of rigorous re-examination. Every fragment of the cryptic code was revisited, every anomaly reinterpreted, in an effort to understand whether the response had been proportionate or if it had inadvertently paved the way for unforeseen ramifications. There emerged a growing realization that the crisis had not simply been a test of military might, but a profound challenge to humanity's ability to discern truth from manipulation, compassion from retribution. The intricate interplay between necessity and ethics, once relegated to abstract debate, was now written in the very stars, demanding that humanity redefine its legacy in light of both its capacity for mercy and its readiness to defend. In quiet moments of collective reflection, the people who had borne witness to this monumental act, through silent screens, whispered conversations, and the steady flow of encrypted data, began to acknowledge the bittersweet nature of their victory. The triumph was measured not in the annihilation of an external threat, but in the internal fortitude that had been summoned in response to it. Every calculated strike had been a testament to the unwavering will that had carried a species long underestimated and often misunderstood. Yet, for every tactical success, there lay a lingering question. At what cost did this retribution come? The cost was not solely measured in lost potential or collateral damage, but in the erosion of innocence and the gradual hardening of a collective spirit that once thrived on hope as much as on resolve. In the aftermath of the response, debates erupted, not as clashing voices of dissent, but as thoughtful deliberations about the nature of justice in an indifferent universe. Leaders, scholars, and everyday citizens alike grapple with the paradox of their own making. They acknowledge that in a cosmos where mercy and vengeance were inextricably linked, every act of defense carried with the seeds of future consequence. The stark realization that a moment of decisive action could irrevocably alter the course of history fostered a new commitment to balancing strength with wisdom. This balance, however, was not easily achieved, for it required an unflinching examination of past mistakes and the courage to adapt to an ever-changing cosmic landscape. As the initial shock receded, it became evident that the reverberations of the response were not confined to the immediate vicinity of the threat. The cosmic stage had been reset, and in its wake, a cautious optimism began to stir. The decisive action had sent a clear message across the stars, a declaration that humanity would not be cowed, that it possessed both the ingenuity to protect its interests and the resilience to endure the fallout of its own actions. This realization ignited a renewed sense of purpose among the stewards of human progress. They understood that the universe was vast and unyielding, but that every act, every decision, was a chance to define their collective future. In the quiet recalibration of interstellar networks and the measured analysis of strategic outcomes, there emerged an unspoken promise that every step forward would be taken with the awareness of past burdens and the hope of forging a more balanced path ahead. In this moment of profound transition, humanity stood at a crossroads between the shadows of its past and the uncertain light of the future. The legacy of the retribution was now being written not only in the annals of cosmic conflict, but in the hearts and minds of the people who had learned that strength was a double-edged sword. It was a legacy that embraced both the ruthless necessity of defense and the gentle, enduring aspiration for a universe where understanding might one day bridge the chasms between disparate worlds. Each decision henceforth would be measured against the backdrop of that transformative event, a reminder that while retribution could silence a threat, it could never erase the complexities of the human condition. As the days turned into weeks, the initial fervor of the response gave way to a deliberate reconstruction of priorities. The vast networks that had once surged with the rapid cadence of battle now operated with quieter, more introspective rhythm. In laboratories and strategic councils, the focus shifted from immediate defense to long-term reflection and reformation. The re-examination of every transmitted datum, every calculated maneuver, was accompanied by a commitment to learning from the past, a pledge to ensure that future responses would be tempered by both strength and discernment. There was an emerging consensus that the true measure of progress was not in capacity to strike, but in the wisdom to choose when restraint was as vital as force. In the lingering silence that followed the storm of action, a renewed vision for the future began to crystallize. It was a vision where the might of humanity would continue to serve as both shield and guide, where the legacy of past retribution would inform the path to a more enlightened coexistence. The scars left behind were not seen as mere reminders of conflict, but as symbols of a journey marked by both triumph and sacrifice. The collective narrative had shifted from one of isolated fury to one of reflective resilience, a transformation that would define the next chapter of human evolution. Thus, in the quiet aftermath of an unprecedented response, humanity found itself at once both victor and student. The relentless drive to defend had yielded a hard-won victory, but also illuminated the inherent complexities of wielding such power. With every pulse of digital energy and every calculated decision echoing through the cosmos, there remained a resolute commitment to honor the dual legacy of strength and compassion. The future was no longer a simple continuation of past actions, but a carefully considered progression, a path that would require unyielding resolve and deep introspection, a promise that the actions of the day would serve as both a shield and a lesson for tomorrow.